exceed the time, your microphone may be turned off to allow the next candidate to answer the question or go on to the next question. If a candidate feels they have been challenged on an issue by the other candidate, they will have 1 minute to respond. Then the other candidate will then have 30 seconds to rebuttal if he or she so pleases. And then we will then move on to the next question. Both candidates will be asked the same questions. The order in which candidates' answers will alternate with each question. These rules ensure a fair and orderly forum, providing all candidates with equal opportunities to present their views while maintaining respect and decorum throughout the event. And those are the questions, or those are the rules. Jamie and Danny? Go. I lost the question. I found it. So I already had Mike and Susan's team already flip coins on who wants to answer last when you get to sell yourself, and who wants to start first on at the opening statement. Okay, I'm gonna flip the coin still in there. You can call it in there.
And it's on its side.
Does that count?
Yeah.
Yes. You want your quarterback. Oh, here, I'll show you. Its tails on that side too. So. Okay.
It was my quarter to begin with, okay.
With Mike to be patient.
Standing up may not be an advantage for me. I think I'm shorter standing up than I was sitting down. So, I'm Danny Garrison. I'm a 7th generation resident of Ozark, Missouri. I am a retired teacher and coach. I taught history in the public schools, and I coached basketball, everything from junior high boys and girls to college men. I was on Jerry Kirksey's staff at Southwest Baptist. I kind of had a unique career there. Then my family, my dad actually, I was the idiot son, but my dad actually had a residential rental house business that we kind of started when I was in college, and that was the business we had together, and still have that in operation today. We're kind of proud of it. It's family business. Recently, I started farming, so I kind of have always wanted to kind of do that. Steve Tatum and I raised goats, cattle, and chickens. I've always been interested in Republican politics. I was voted for in a high school election.
Values that we have here in our area. For the last 2 years, I'll just go through some legislation that I've done. I have fought for our foster program, because we have a very broken foster program. We've got it to where we have children that are missing. The state can't find them. We've got it to where it's difficult for children to find good homes to go to. And then we've made it difficult for children to get reunited with parents if the parents are made a suitable home for them to go back to. I've also fought for our pro-life movement. I've fought for our Second Amendment rights and other legislation as well. About me is I grew up here in Ozark, actually just right up the hill here, next to the old post office. My family's been around here for, I'm the 10th generation. That does not make me a good candidate at all. It just lets you guys know that my family is here. I have buy-in here. This is my home. This is where my family is at. So not only are these my family, but they're also my friends, and I'm going to represent them the best I can. So thank you very much.
The school district look like is out of money. I know a lot of things about specifically where the bodies are buried and where we can fund education in a better way. And another project I had as a homeowner here and a residential rental house owner is I'm concerned about eminent domain, and there was a Kelo case in 2007, a Supreme Court case in which it allowed eminent domain through private development, I think that was a mistake by the U.S. Supreme Court, but it did allow the states to prevent that, or at least mediate that. And so I think that's something I would like to see done, and I would like to introduce legislation to prevent that. I have other specifics too, but but those are the two main things I'd like to really support.
All right, and I forgot to tell you, you do have 3 minutes on the start. Or 2.5, I'm sorry. 2.5. You're good.
get through for this next session. I've been working on a fathership initiative because we have a fatherless epidemic going on in our nation, and especially in our state. If you looked at a lot of the statistics of a lot of the negative things we have going on, dropout rate for teens, incarceration rates for people, teen pregnancies, gun violence, all these things that we see, they have a common denominator, and that is that dad was not in the picture when they were growing up. We need to fix that somehow. We need to do what we can to get dads back in front of in the picture. Does that mean putting dads back in the home with mom? That's a totally separate issue that we can, our churches should be picking up on that. We should be working on our families, but we need to get dads back as dads. These children need their dads in front of them. Fortunately, we do have mothers that stay in the lives of our children, but we need dads. So I would fight for that. I've got a legislation that I'm building right now. State of Florida has already adopted it 2 years ago. They wholeheartedly, unanimously adopted it, and it's going successfully. And so I've taken their legislation, patterned after what they've got going, and we're going with that. Other legislation is when it comes to the families, I am going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that moms and dads are the #1 people when it comes to taking care of their kids. If mom and dad are not the #1 seat at the table, then there's a problem. If mom and dads don't have that #1 seat, then whose children are they really? So I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure mom and dads are always #1 in the lives of their children, and to make sure that they are #1 in the education, when it comes to their health care, and on and on and on.
Okay. Jamie, you get this part first now. Many in our party play the Christianese when it comes to campaigning in the Republican Party. Then they vote another way when they get elected. How does your faith and allegiance to God keep you staying with your convictions, and will that guide you in your pushing or voting on legislation?
Good question, thank you. One thing I hear a lot, mostly from the other side of the aisle, the more liberal side of our state, they say, if you're getting up to Jefferson City, you need to remember there's a separation of church and state. You need to leave your religion at home. Well, that's like saying, don't be a guy. I can't separate that from who I am. That is part of who I am. And I think the people here in the 140th elected me knowing that was part of me, and that is who I am. That is part of my decision making. The decision making that I will make is moral, ethic decision making. So it has everything to do with the decision making that I make. Because not only is it mine, but it's also the people that live back here in my district.
Over to the states. And how would you legislate for or against abortion?
Well, I would not legislate for abortion. I'll start off with that easy one right there. Life begins at conception. And I would fight tooth and nail to keep that. I personally have 4 children, one of them standing right back here in the back. I think children are a blessing from God. I believe they are ordained from conception. He knew them in the womb, and we have to fight tooth and nail. If I can take it a step further, because this is pro-life we're talking about, I would take that to the end of life as well. We need to fight tooth and nail to keep from euthanasia items that are slowly creeping in under the radar right now as well. So pro-life on the beginning and the end.
Dan?
I agree with Jamie. Life begins at conception, and really, I mean, he said a lot of the things that I believe in as well.
All right.
School administration for secretly directing children to do something against their parents' authority. Do you want me to repeat that?
I think I can go. I think I can answer it based on what I heard and everything. I do think the parents ultimately should have the final authority and responsibility for the child. The schools should not. I'm a former teacher and I've been trained as an administrator. I don't think that we should be stepping in and taking the role of the parents. I'm gonna have to ask you about this.
Okay, well, so if you're supporting with the parents, then the next part of that question is, would you support legislation that would punish school administrations that secretly direct children to do something against their parents' authority?
I do think that would be fine. I do have a little bit of a problem with it because the way you constructed the question, any legislation that might be produced might be a bill of attainder because it's just been written to function as punishing. It'd be unconstitutional as a bill of attainder just because it would just be legislation working against them.
I actually had a bill that I submitted this last year. We have a problem in our school systems nationwide, and we need to stop it before it gets here. The bill was that if any teacher or counselor in their official capacity want to assist a child in social transitioning, they can be prosecuted and put on the sexual offenders list. It is very important to me that we stop that, because social transitioning leads to physical transitioning. Physical transitioning has been proven to ruin lives. We have people that are trying to detransition because they have medically altered their bodies. Women have removed their breasts. Men have removed other body parts, and I won't go into details. And then they realize what they've done is wrong. And they have to live with the repercussions the rest of their lives. We have to deal with the issues as parents, the people who have the most buy-in, number one, and not let people infiltrate our kids' lives and destroy them.